Hello, everybody. We're just going to wait a moment here, and as people are joining in here tonight, great to see everybody that's going to be taking in our webinar this evening. We'll go through the some of the procedures and the platform here a little bit, but I know many of you are really skilled at this because it's not the first time you've been on this platform webinar jam. So we'll just give it about another 30 seconds here, just watching people join in here. That's great. That's great. And please let us know where you're joining us from as well. That'd be great. We always love to see what parts of Canada everybody is joining us from. So that's fantastic. All right, we'll get started here. So first of all, welcome to our webinar here tonight, and always so great to see so many ECEs and providers joining us and others joining us from across Canada as we present these webinars, and fully appreciate that everybody has more than likely worked a full day and more than likely worked a full day with children. And we know that that can be a challenge for sure. So before we start our land recognition, that the Federation respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we are located is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We recognize all Indigenous people who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. As Indigenous people have done since time immemorial, we strive to be responsible stewards of the land and to respect the cultures, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home. As we open our hearts and minds to the past, we commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all. Today, these lands continue to be shared territory and are occupied by many diverse peoples from near and far. A treaty is an inheritance, a responsibility, and a relationship. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I should also mention that, which I didn't as well or off the start, is my name is Don Giesbrecht, and I am the CEO of the Canadian Child Care Federation. And again, so wonderful to have so many of you here tonight. So just some quick pieces in terms of the technology you're using today. You do have your control panel there. As you've all figured out, or most of you have figured out, we've got the chat function, which we love to see. We want to see you engaging and asking questions. We've got a great panel of speakers here tonight. So ask away, right? We'll be engaging with you throughout the night. So great to see people putting in where they're from, which is fantastic as well. A couple of other things on here. We did put up at the top of your chat, there's what we call a sticky note. And in that note is what we're talking about tonight. It's the child care checklist. If you click on that link, you can go and take a look at it and go over to kipchi's website and check that out. Not during the webinar. We want you to do that afterwards, but that is there as well. On the offers button, you're going to see that there as well. On the offers button is also another link, which is to a survey. And if you're a member of the Federation, you've received this survey at least a couple of times. You've seen it. If you follow us on social media, you've also seen it there. It's a survey we're doing in partnership with kipchi, just in and around healthy environments, right? So you all know we're in the midst of creating a pan-Canadian, the Canada-wide childcare plan. Ontario signed their agreement just the other week, which is fantastic because it means now we've got all 13 Canadian jurisdictions signed up. But we all know, everybody on this webinar tonight knows that quality matters. And this is what we're talking about here. It's not just about building a space and having a childcare space for the sake of the space. It has to be quality. And we know then that it ties to workforce issues. And just a quick aside on that, we know that the response so far from provinces and territories, for the most part, with regards to our workforce, has not been stellar. There's a lot of work for us to do there, and that certainly ties to quality as well, for those of you who are thinking that. Of course it does. But this is talking about the environment in which childcare programs operate. I've learned so much working with Erica and kipchi through the years, just about so many toxins and just so many environmental issues that impact on our practice and on the well-being of children and the people in the programs that work in their programs. So this is just a really, really timely piece of work that we're collectively doing, and so important to all of you in terms of your practice and the programs you work in and the programs you run. So I think you're going to really enjoy this here tonight. So without further ado, we also have Robin McMillan on from the Federation on the webinar tonight. She will join you at the end and talk to you about some of the next steps specific to the webinar and other pieces. But it is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight our three presenters. Erica Phipps, I've known Erica for many years. She's the Executive Director of the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and Environment. By the way, that's kipchi, what I was saying before, Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and Environment, acronym, we call it kipchi. Erica has worked on toxics and children's environmental health issues for 25 years, both in Canada and internationally. She has a background in public health, has recently completed a doctorate in health promotion with a focus on health equity. In addition to her work with kipchi, she holds a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Ottawa. Welcome, Erica. Jillian Petrini is the coordinator for kipchi's Healthy Environment for Schools Day, which is connected to the work that we're all doing today. And so, yes, it's called Healthy Schools Day, but trust me when I say that the scope is much beyond, in fact, is really focused on early learning and childcare environments. That is just a name, so please don't be freaked out by that. Jillian is also an educator and has worked in kindergarten to grade 12 classrooms as well as in early childhood education. And Patrick Gauguin is a senior scientist for Health Canada and is a member of the Indoor Air Contaminants Assessment Section. Patrick will present an overview of indoor air and the factors that contribute to the quality of the air we breathe, which we know in the days of COVID, as we are now in and will be in, is so important. So with that, I turn it over to you, Erica, and look forward to the webinar here tonight.
Great. Thanks so much, Don, for that, that wonderful introduction and background to our many years of work together. So as Don mentioned, kipchi, our acronym, is the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and Environment. And just a few words about kipchi. We are not an organization per se, but a collaboration among nearly 20 organizations that have been working together for two decades, with a shared commitment to improving children's environmental health in Canada. So coming from multiple perspectives, from public health, from environmental nonprofits, and most importantly for our work tonight, the Canadian Childcare Federation being a founding core partner of kipchi. So we are looking at creating healthy environments in which children can live, learn, play, and grow. Over the years, our work has focused primarily on toxics issues, air pollution, water, toxic chemicals and products, and various things that we have in our homes and learning environments. And our aim really is to create that foundation of awareness among people, parents, practitioners, to mobilize that knowledge and to catalyze action. So working together across disciplines and across sectors to build the Canada that we all hope and aspire to. So specifically to our work tonight, and Don, we have heard you, Healthy Schools Day is now no longer, we are now calling it Healthy Environments for Learning Day, very importantly because we wanted to embrace, when we took over the leadership of this national phenomenon about 5 years ago, we felt it very important to include those early learning environments. Those are fundamental for child health, as everyone on this call well knows. And from an environmental health perspective, those very young early years are also more susceptible to harm when it comes to exposure to toxins, pollutants, and other adverse aspects of our environment. And also on the positive side, those exposures early on to environments that support well-being, time outdoors, healthy spaces, fresh air, all of that can really support well-being for kids in childhood and towards a lifelong of health. So we've been working on this initiative this year, really thrilled to be focusing specifically on the childcare settings. So the campaign for this year, which Jillian will tell us more about in a few minutes, is focusing on creating healthy as well as sustainable childcare environments across Canada. Don mentioned earlier the survey that we have out in the field right now. Really encourage everyone to take a chance to look at it and fill it out. We're thrilled at the response so far. We already have 1,500 people who have shared their thoughts with us. The survey is being conducted by kipchi with CCCF and with colleagues at the University of Ottawa. And really what we're trying to understand is really get a sense of that on-the-ground knowledge of what's happening day to day. What are some of the issues that come up? What are the practices that you have in your settings and the conditions? So for example, there would be questions about, do you see evidence of mold? Or do kids have access to outdoor space or not? Is there adequate shade? Are there some of the practices to reduce exposures to toxics in toys and arts and crafts supplies, cleaning materials, and so forth? And also really wanting to understand from the folks who know best, those of you who are in those settings, to really share that knowledge of what are some of the gaps, what are things that you need, resources, information, how can we collectively better support childcare practitioners and professionals across the country to do that important work of creating healthy and sustainable childcare settings together with the necessary policy supports. So, really looking at the full gamut of things from reducing toxic exposures to climate action, as well as waste reduction, energy efficiency, and other means of ecological sustainability. So here's the link to the survey. We are inviting people to participate in the survey, which is available in both English and French until April 15th. We have some prizes. We're going to be doing a draw for 5 $50 gift cards. And really, really keen to hear from all of you about what you're seeing, hearing about from parents, from boards and others, and what are some of your aspirations and needs. So I pass it now to my colleague Jillian, who's going to walk you through our brand new resource on the checklist tool and resource hub, which I maybe just want to mention. This has been a real labor of love for kipchi. We've been working on resources to support environmental health in the sector for more than a decade, and really thrilled to see this new incarnation of that work in an online format to try to really make it more engaging and available to people working in the sector. So thanks for joining tonight, and I pass it to you, Jillian.
Great. Thank you, Erica. And thank you to everyone for being here tonight. It has been amazing to see everything in the chat and see the wide range of places that everyone is zooming in or webinar jamming in tonight to be here. And thanks, Dawn, for opening us up in such a good way. So my name again is Jillian Petrini, and I'm very honored to be the project coordinator for this year's Healthy Environments for Learning Day, as Erica shared earlier. It is an event that happens every April in Canada, and while we have the day being April 28th of 2022, it really is an ongoing campaign to promote healthy environments, specifically this year in childcare settings. So I'm excited to share with you one of our key parts of the campaign. This survey, as Erica mentioned, is ongoing with this campaign, as is the launch of our Healthy and Sustainable Childcare Checklist and Resource Hub. So I'm very excited to share this with you. You are truly one of the first groups that we are presenting this, so you have exclusive VIP access to this tonight. As Erica mentioned, this has definitely been a labor of love. So it is based on the 2010 kipchi childcare checklist and has been updated and brought into an online platform with the support of many talented experts in their field from organizations and individuals in varying sectors. So really excited to share this with you tonight. The Resource Hub is an engaging online platform where users can access current and relevant information as it relates to environmental health and sustainability in childcare settings specifically, but it can really relate to a number of different settings as well. The ideas and suggestions that are included in this checklist and Resource Hub range from choosing safer cleaning products and toys to introducing a fragrance-free policy or composting program, and they can help a childcare program go beyond the basic regulatory requirements to create healthy and sustainable indoor and outdoor environments. So the page that I'm sharing with you right now is the landing page that you would come to if you clicked on the link below, which is also shared in the chat, I believe. And this is the beginning of our landing page. So what I'm going to run you through is the key elements that you would find within this resource. So on that initial landing page, one of the first invitations would be to take the checklist, which is this yellow box that you see here. The checklist is 102 questions that cover 9 different topic areas. So when you click on that link, it will take you to another section of this, specifically the checklist portion. Within that, all of the questions connect directly to the information that's within the Resource Hub. So if you wanted to find out more information about the topic or investigate what the question, different elements of the question, you could do so directly going between the Resource Hub and the checklist. The checklist covers 9 different topic areas. And this includes air quality, indoor learning and play, outdoor learning and play, sun safety and extreme heat, cleaning and disinfecting, kitchen and food preparation, facility maintenance and office admin, sustainability and climate action, and inclusivity and accessibility and equity. Now, there are many ways that a childcare practitioner could use this checklist, and also it could be used by many other people, including public health inspectors, families, caregivers, but specifically for childcare practitioners, you might use this checklist to assess how you're doing, how your own program is doing, to find out what environmental health and sustainability aspects of your program are being done really well and what areas you could improve on. This could be used individually or as a whole staff by administration. It could be used to share broadly the results with your community, with your families, for tracking, for celebrating, and the checklist can be returned to look at progress over time. It can also be done in parts, where you can go back and forth between the Resource Hub as you learn more. It can be done in one sitting, or it can be done a little bit at a time, and you can come back to it at a later date. The piece that I am really excited to share with this group is that childcare practitioners receive 1 hour of professional development from CCCF for completing this checklist. So really encourage all of you and to share it broadly, to take the checklist, to assess how you're doing in your program, and find ways to continue to support healthy and sustainable environments and childcare settings. So this is the first part of this landing page and the checklist element. And then to continue on that landing page comes to the Resource Hub, which includes our trending now and further topic areas, those 9 topic areas I spoke to earlier. So this trending now section reflects what current trends and issues in environmental health are taking place right now. These could change as different issues arise. So right now we have toxics, COVID, plastics, and climate. And these 4 areas are really cross-cutting. So when you click on one area, it will take you to another page that directs you to the aligned topics that apply to these different trending now areas. So that is the topic now section, which then leads afterwards into our 9 topic areas. And so these are the 9 topic areas that I spoke to before, which directly translate to our checklist as well. And each of these topic boxes that you can click on will take you to the topic page where you can investigate further. So if we were to look at air quality and click on that box, we would then come to this page. And within the air quality, there are many topics to explore. So this particular topic area is broken down into outdoor air quality and indoor air quality. So you're able to narrow down your focus. Now, this screenshot only shows the top part, but there's a number of different boxes underneath. So air quality health index is one of them. There is also fossil fuel equipment, surrounding sources of pollution under outdoor air quality. Under indoor air quality would be such things as ventilation, radon, mold. So a number of different areas that you can explore further. So for example, we would look at, let's say, ventilation, because that's tying into our topic area for tonight. So if I were to click on ventilation, I would move into this page, which gives me a lot more information specifically on the area that I've chosen. And each page is broken down into 3 different components. So the first one outlining why is this important, which gives a very general, broad overview of the topic and why this is really a critical area around children's environmental health. Then looks at what actions can be taken. So what everyday tangible things can be done within our settings to really create those healthy and sustainable environments for the children and staff that we work with. And then at the bottom, where can we learn more? So if we want to take a deeper dive, find out more about ventilation, which is a really high profile topic area right now, and one that we're going to explore further with the help of Patrick from Health Canada. So where can we learn more? What other organizations have information about this? And those are listed as resources at the bottom that you can take a further deep dive. And so ventilation and indoor air quality is one of the key parts in healthy and sustainable childcare environments, as are all these other topic areas. But today we really wanted to focus on this, as it has very much been at top of mind, especially as we are continuing to go through COVID-19. Good ventilation and fresh air exchange is a key piece in creating healthy environments for children. And so today we're really fortunate to be joined by Patrick Gauguin from Health Canada to speak more on ways to improve ventilation and everyday tips to keep your setting healthy. Health Canada, I want to say, has been a key supporter in the creation of this checklist, and we have many of their resources woven throughout our resource hub. So very grateful to have Patrick join us today, and I will turn it over to him.
Well, thank you, Jillian. And hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Pat Gauguin. I work for the Indoor Air Contaminant Assessment Section at Health Canada. I'm a member of a team of scientists and researchers who work to understand the health effects of air pollution and what steps that we, not only as the government, but as individual Canadians, can take to improve the air in our homes and our learning environments. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to present today. As this presentation is part of Healthy Environments for Schools Day, this presentation is focused towards a home learning environment, although much of what I'll be presenting today is applicable in other learning settings like small classrooms in church basements and community centers, and as well as in full-scale school buildings. Now I'm hoping the information I'll be presenting today will provide you with the understanding of the types of pollutants that you can be found indoors, the risks of being exposed to these pollutants on your health, and what you can do to improve the air quality indoors. Now, having had many years of experience in meeting and talking with Canadians about indoor air-related issues, we've discovered that many Canadians think that protecting their indoor air is complicated. And some people express a fear that there may be pollutants in the air which they cannot identify, which may be having an impact on their health. But after today, I'm hoping that you'll leave with a good understanding of indoor air pollution and what steps you can take to protect yourself and your family. And so the plan for my presentation today is to introduce you to the following information. Why should we think about indoor air quality? What are the sources? Who's at greatest risk? What are the health risks, especially in kids? What are the pollutants of concern, and what can we do? Now, when I think about Canada, I picture mountains and streams and rolling pastures and breezes blowing in from the coasts. Primarily, I think about the great outdoors when I think about living in Canada, but the truth is that we Canadians spend around 90% of our time indoors. We live, and many of us now work at home, or we work in buildings. Our kids go to school in buildings, we shop in buildings, and we congregate for activities in buildings like gyms and restaurants and coffee shops. And so considering that we and our kids spend the majority of our time indoors, it's important that we pay attention to the air we breathe while spending our time in these different indoor spaces. Now, the indoor environment can contain hundreds of different air pollutants, some that infiltrate from outside, but with the majority of them being generated from sources inside. And unless methods are adopted to address the air pollution you find inside, some of these contaminants may be found at levels higher than you would outside. And since we've studied these pollutants, we know that they have the potential to cause health effects, especially in people who are susceptible. Now, there's multiple sources of pollutants contributing to poor indoor air, both inside and outside of the home. Combustion-related activities such as smoking and cooking and heating, as well as the operation of fuel-burning equipment in attached garages, can all contribute to pollutant levels in your house. These can be a source of combustion-related pollutants, but they can also be a source of other pollutants, such as the chemicals that off-gas from fuel containers, as well as the natural gas used in your cooking stove. Indoors, there's many non-combustion-related sources of pollutants as well. Items such as furniture and cabinets made from manufactured wood, as well as carpeting and flooring, can be a source of pollutants. The building materials that your home is constructed from, especially in newer homes, can also be a source. Cleaning products can also be a source, depending on their composition, as can home improvement products like paints and stains. As well, some hobbies and children's activities that use glues or solvents can also increase the amount of pollutants indoors. Now, indoor moisture, if not addressed, can lead to mold growth. Mold is found everywhere in the environment, much like bacteria, and if it's provided the proper conditions, it can grow on surfaces indoors. Most people have probably experienced mold growing in their bathroom, but mold can also grow in other places in your home, such as basements and crawl spaces if they're humid, and even in the main living area of your home if your moisture levels are too high. Now, while this isn't a source itself, not having good ventilation in your home can allow pollutants and moisture to accumulate inside, so poor ventilation can lead to poor indoor air quality. It's important to make sure your home is well ventilated with fresh air to expel the pollutants and moisture outside. Now, one of the primary pieces of advice that we give to Canadians is to make sure you bring fresh air indoors to flush out the pollutants and moisture. Now, depending on where you live and what's in your surrounding area, for example, near a busy roadway or industry, your levels of outdoor pollutants can be of concern. Now, depending on where you live and if it's available in your local area, you can use the Government of Canada's Air Quality Health Index, also known as the AQHI, to determine the health risks of the air pollutants found outdoors. The AQHI provides a number from 1 to 10 that indicates the potential for the air outside to affect your health. Now, indoor air is something that we should all be aware of in order to protect the health of ourselves and our families. As we all spend a considerable amount of time indoors, we all have the potential to be exposed to indoor air pollutants. However, susceptible individuals are more likely to experience health effects. These includes people such as children due to their smaller developing lungs, as well as their increased activity levels. The elderly due to the fact that as people age, their susceptibility to pollution increases. People who are pregnant, and those with pre-existing heart and lung disease, such as cardiovascular disease, asthma, or COPD. Now, as I mentioned, there are several important air pollutants to be aware of indoors. The pollutants of concern can be grouped into the following 3 categories: chemical, biological, and radiological pollutants. I've listed them all here, but then I'll highlight several of the major pollutants in the following slides. Now, chemical pollutants comprise the following list. Particulate matter. Now, that refers to tiny particles in the air, much like soot or dust, which can be inhaled and which may deposit in the lungs. These can be small particles of carbon or other solid minerals, or they may be entirely made out of soluble material that can dissolve once they're deposited in your lungs. Carbon monoxide is a pollutant produced during the incomplete combustion of organic material, which has the potential to cause health effects and, in the extreme, asphyxiation. Nitrogen dioxide can be produced by the combustion of natural gas, which can arise from your gas stove, as well as from fuel-powered heating equipment if not properly vented outside. Volatile organic compounds are chemicals which are in the gas phase at room temperature, so they can be inhaled from the indoor air. There are hundreds of different VOCs that can be found in the home, all with different health effects. And ozone, which is a molecule produced by some air cleaning equipment and which is very reactive, so people should avoid being in indoor spaces where ozone equipment is being operated. Now, the biological pollutants include mold, bacteria, house dust mites, and aeroallergens such as pollen and spores. And then radon is in a class of its own, and it's studied by a different group than mine, by the Radiation Protection Bureau at Health Canada. But all that to say, radon's a naturally occurring radioactive gas that can seep into some basements depending on the location of your home and the structural integrity of your basement. Radon is an important indoor air pollutant as it can cause lung cancer following prolonged exposure, but at the same time, it's a pollutant that can be monitored and remediated. Now, in the following few slides, I'll highlight some of the pollutants found indoors that are important considerations in environment with children. First, particulate matter. Due to its physical nature, it has inertia and it can be carried into the lungs whenever we breathe. Larger particles deposit in the upper airways, which are removed by coughing and either swallowing or spitting them out. Whereas smaller material can be carried deep into the lungs, where it can deposit in smaller airways and in the alveoli, where the gas exchange occurs. Particles that deposit in the lungs have the potential to cause direct effects to the lungs, either through chemical effects or mechanical damage due to the particle shape, or they can dissolve into the lining of the lungs and into the bloodstream and result in health effects further away from the deposition site. Now, outdoor particulate material has been shown in a large number of studies to be strongly associated with cardiovascular and respiratory endpoints. There's no recognized threshold of health effects for outdoor particulate matter, regardless of where the exposure occurs, either indoors or outdoors. And there's evidence that health effects occur even at current levels of exposure. Now, a much smaller number of studies have investigated the relationship between indoor particulate matter and health, with some evidence showing a relationship between indoor particulate levels and declines in lung function and increases in markers of airway inflammation in children with asthma. Another important pollutant to consider is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a tasteless, odorless, and colorless gas at room temperature, and it's usually formed during the incomplete combustion of organic materials. Although everyone is at risk of health effects due to carbon monoxide exposure, children are more susceptible due to their increased breathing rate and increased activity levels. The acute risk of carbon monoxide exposure is asphyxiation, which is the reason we're all encouraged to have carbon monoxide alarms in our homes. It's important to remember that if carbon monoxide alarm sounds, you should leave the building immediately rather than search for a source. It's best to call 911 and let emergency personnel determine whether it's safe to re-enter. Nitrogen dioxide is a pollutant that's produced through the combustion of natural gas on your stove, as well as from other combustion sources. Now, considering that many schools and childcare environments have cooking facilities, there's an increased potential for exposure of staff and children to nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide has been shown to decrease lung function in children, particularly in those with asthma. Volatile organic compounds, known as VOCs, form a large group of chemicals commonly found in the indoor air. These chemicals can off-gas from products your home is made of or from the consumer products you bring into your home. VOCs have been demonstrated to cause health issues such as headaches, fatigue, and eye irritation. Now, some VOCs are carcinogenic, meaning they cause cancer, but in general, not at the concentrations that you're going to find indoors. And children, seniors, pregnant people, and those with asthma are at greatest risk of exposure to VOCs. And finally, mold. Mold is a naturally occurring organism that's present almost everywhere, and when provided the proper conditions, will grow on surfaces indoors. Mold growth can be controlled by maintaining proper humidity levels indoors. When manageable amounts of mold is discovered, it should be cleaned up immediately using soap and water, while large amounts of mold may require enlisting a professional for cleanup. Mold is a health concern when present indoors, as it can lead to eye and throat irritation, sneezing, difficulty breathing, as well as worsening of symptoms in those with asthma. So, pollutants found indoors have the potential to cause health effects. What can we do to protect and improve the air indoors? Well, the group where I work, the Indoor Air section of Health Canada, produces information to help Canadians identify what pollutants you should be aware of, where they come from, and how to protect your health. We do this by producing infographics, such as the example on how to maintain and improve indoor air quality. That's the little house in the top left, which provides a summary of our recommendations for improving the quality of the air in your home. We have several other infographics that provide summaries of good practices that you can adopt in your home, with topics such as ventilating your home and what steps can you take to protect your indoor air when the outdoor air is poor. As well, we have several infographics on specific pollutants, such as the examples shown in the middle in the bottom left-hand corner, shown here for fine particulate material and mold. These infographics are quite popular with people who appreciate the graphical representation of the science, and the printed copies are double-sided in French and English, so they're popular at events like home shows and for use in classrooms. We distribute hundreds of these every year. Now, these infographics are derived from larger, more technical documents. As part of the indoor air section at Health Canada, we've developed a series of residential indoor air quality guidelines on a range of indoor air pollutants. These guidelines are usually about 4 to 6 pages long and provide a summary of a much larger science assessment document, which can be 50 to 100 pages long, in which outline the source of the pollutant, the health effects, and our recommended levels for the pollutant indoors. Now, currently, we're reorganizing our website at Health Canada to help ensure that all our products are easy to find and available for download, but I can make any of our products available to you electronically if you contact me after the presentation. So, how do you protect and improve your indoor air quality? I've broken the advice down into 3 different categories: source control, healthy behaviors, and maintenance and monitoring. So, source control. The most effective way to reduce indoor air pollution is to remove or reduce the source of contamination. As I mentioned, combustion is a source of pollutants, especially particulate material, so removing or limiting sources is important. This means you should not smoke indoors, as well as other combustion sources such as burning candles or incense should be limited or avoided. Attached garages can also be a source of combustion products, along with pollutants associated with fuel storage, so vehicles should not be allowed to idle in your attached garage. If there's a door between your home and the attached garage, it should remain closed, and it should have proper sealing around the door to prevent infiltration of air into the house. Storing your fuel in a shed or other buildings not attached to the home would be best. Properly storing paints and solvents with tight-fitting lids is important, as is making the effort to choose low-emitting products whenever possible. And whenever you're renovating or using harsh cleaning products, always make sure that you ventilate. So next, there are some healthy behaviors you can adopt to improve your air quality indoors. Ventilation is a very effective method for protecting your air indoors. If the source of your indoor air pollutants is inside, the best method to improve your air quality is to exchange the poor indoor air with fresh outdoor air. Now, considering that ventilating indoors requires bringing in outdoor air, it's important to be aware of the condition of the outdoor air. As I mentioned, you can use Health Canada's Air Quality Health Index to help you determine what the quality of the air is around you. Being aware of your local conditions can also be important. If applicable, ventilating your home when traffic levels are low, or avoiding ventilating when your neighbors are using their wood-burning stove can help to reduce bringing in pollutants from the outdoors. You may consider limiting your ventilation on days when the outdoor air quality is poor. As I outlined earlier, particulate matter is of concern, so filtering the air can improve the quality of your air and protect your health. If possible, a high-efficiency particulate air filter or HEPA filter can be used in your furnace or ventilation system to allow for filtration of all the air being drawn inside. HEPA filters trap extremely small particles, which helps to improve the quality of your air. Now, some furnaces cannot handle the pressure drop across a HEPA filter, so if your furnace does not support one, purchase the highest quality filter that you can. Portable air cleaners are also a good option for small spaces. It's advisable to choose cleaners equipped with HEPA filters and to operate them in rooms where you spend most of your time. Ensure that you purchase a filtration unit that is of appropriate size for the room you plan to use it in. While they're becoming much less common, do not use air cleaners that are designed to emit ozone. As I mentioned, ozone is a harmful air pollutant that some cleaning companies use to clean some indoor environments, but it's harmful to the lungs and should not be inhaled. Vacuuming is a good way to control dust, but you have to be a bit mindful. Some inexpensive vacuums simply resuspend the fine dust into the air, only to have it resettle on surfaces again. Using a central vacuum that vents to the outside, or a vacuum cleaner with a HEPA filter to trap small particles is best. An alternative to vacuuming is wet mopping. And using your range hood fan and bathroom fan are a good way to control moisture, but using these fans also contributes to increasing overall ventilation in your home. Now, the third thing to think about is maintenance and monitoring. It's important that you inspect and maintain all your combustion appliances. This is to ensure that they're operating correctly and are being properly vented. In a home, ensure that you install at least one carbon monoxide alarm, but preferably one on every level, and install them close to bedrooms. If your school or classroom uses combustion appliances or conducts activities in which combustion occurs, for example, like an automotive shop or a cooking class or Bunsen burners in a science class, carbon monoxide alarms should be installed. Now, newer carbon monoxide alarms like the one shown provide a low-level display screen, which will provide you a measure of carbon monoxide levels below which will trigger the alarm. Some vulnerable populations are more susceptible to carbon monoxide exposure, for example, those with cardiovascular disease, and for them, it's useful to be able to monitor the carbon monoxide levels below those that would cause a traditional alarm to sound. Now, high humidity in your home can lead to mold growth, so it's important to ensure that you control it. Running your bathroom fan after you shower and running the range hood fan over your stove when you boil water is a good way to ventilate the air and remove the excess moisture. If needed, a hygrometer may be used to measure your humidity, and use of a humidifier or a dehumidifier may be warranted if the indoor air remains too dry or moist. Health Canada recommends that you maintain your humidity levels between 30 and 50%. And finally, take action to measure and lower radon. The Government of Canada website, takeactiononradon.ca, provides information on purchasing testing kits and taking steps to remediate any radon issues you have in your home. Now, in the last 3 slides, you may have noticed the word ventilate on every slide. As many pollutants you find indoors originate from sources found indoors, it's very important that indoor spaces are properly ventilated with fresh outdoor air to displace and remove the pollutants and moisture. This can be accomplished by simply opening your windows, running your air conditioner, or using your furnace and ventilation system to ventilate your home. In Canada, many new homes are equipped with a piece of equipment called a heat recovery ventilator, or HRV, which is essentially a fan that allows you to ventilate your home all year long while using a heat exchanger to retain the heat in your home during the winter and to keep the heat out of your house in the summertime. Now, all these methods can be used to increase the ventilation by bringing in outdoor air. Now, my group at Health Canada has prepared several documents, including a fact sheet, an infographic, and a technical document on the importance of using ventilation to maintain and improve good indoor air quality. Now, in the last 2 years, understanding virus transmission indoors has become quite important due to the COVID pandemic. Health Canada has worked in coordination with the Public Health Agency of Canada to develop guidance for reducing transmission of COVID indoors. As part of a layered approach incorporating vaccination, masks, social distancing, and hand washing, guidance concerning the use of ventilation and filtration has also been developed. In general, increasing fresh air intake and removal of contaminated air using natural or mechanical ventilation is key. This can be accomplished by simply opening the windows when possible, as well as using mechanical ventilation such as your furnace, your HRV, or even your bathroom and kitchen exhaust fans to exhaust the air outdoors. As well, filtration is part of your heating system. Your building-wide filtration and portable air cleaners can be used as additional layers of protection. And the other topic I'd like to touch on is the use of carbon dioxide as an indicator of ventilation. Carbon dioxide monitors have become easily accessible and affordable, and some people have suggested using them to trigger ventilation systems or as a proxy for viral contamination of indoor air. The main source of carbon dioxide indoors is human respiration. We create it as we breathe. And the more people that are present in a room, the higher likelihood of the levels of carbon dioxide increasing. Now, as the levels increase, it may be an indication that there's not enough ventilation in a room. However, a low level of carbon dioxide does not necessarily indicate adequate ventilation or a lower risk of virus transmission or a lower level of any other pollutant. It may simply be an indication of how many people are or have been in a room. And as the amount of exhaled virus or the amount of a pollutant indoors does not correlate with indoor carbon dioxide levels, a low level of carbon dioxide does not necessarily indicate a low amount of airborne virus or pollutant. Now, Health Canada has developed a residential indoor air quality guideline for carbon dioxide at 1,000 ppm. And it would be enticing to install a carbon dioxide monitor, much like a carbon monoxide monitor, as discussed earlier, and have it alarm when the levels go above a set value, like 1,000 ppm, for example. Or to have the ventilation system be automatically triggered when the carbon dioxide levels are high. The problem is that this gives people a false sense of security, both from a virus transmission and an adequate ventilation point of view. Imagine only a few people inhabiting a room, with one of them being infectious with a respiratory virus. In this scenario, the carbon dioxide levels would likely not be high enough to trigger a carbon dioxide sensor, so it would not trigger the ventilation in the room, even though the viral load would be increasing due to the infectious person. As well, Appropriate carbon dioxide monitoring requires an accurate device, proper installation, routine calibration, and continuous monitoring. So, from Health Canada, currently, for a CO2 monitor to be a useful indoor air quality tool, you must act when the levels are high or increasing. We recommend that people open their doors and their windows, they increase the ventilation, and they reduce the number of people indoors. So, to summarize my presentation today, we spent a lot of time indoors. Our kids spend a lot of time indoors, and especially now that many of us are working from home due to COVID, we're spending an even greater amount of time in our homes. Our homes can be a source of indoor pollutants, but we are able to identify what they are, and we now know how to control them. This involves the 3 strategies I've covered today, which involves controlling the pollutants at the source by removing them from the home or preventing them from coming in, adopting healthy behaviors such as dust control, and maintaining your air filtration equipment and filters, and making sure that your combustion equipment is operating properly and being continuously monitored. Oh, and ventilate, lots. So I encourage you to please consult our website for more information related to indoor air pollution, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to present today and welcome any question or comments. And that is it. You're on mute.
How many times have I done that today?
Yeah, me too.
Thank you very much to you and to you, Patrick, and to Jillian and Erica as well for giving us so much information. That's something's going wrong by my chair. Complete breakdown over here. Yes, it's been great to hear about all this stuff because for many of us, it can be very overwhelming and intimidating, but you presented it in such a way that we can get our heads around it and actually change that into best practices. So that's really kind of influenced the work we do each and every day with children and families, which is great. I wondered if anybody had any questions. I'll just give a little look at the side here. Give me a second to think about that because now we have these experts online. And certainly I can let you know what is going to be coming your way as a participant from the webinar. So by the end of the week, I will be sending you an additional email, just a follow-up with links to the presentation, links to our YouTube channel, which Dawn has mentioned that we're going to have it posted in YouTube as well. They'll also include the links that Patrick's mentioned. I'll capture those in the follow-up email as well. And the links to that checklist, which I'm really excited about. And I hope you guys can all check that out. And as Jillian mentioned, that is a great opportunity to get some PD hours as well, right? So once you complete the checklist, you can get a professional development certificate from the Canadian Child Care Federation, which I know in a lot of your areas is a requirement for your licensing. So that's a great piece of news that we were able to do through that project. So that's great. Also, certificates. Yes, certificates from this webinar as well will be sent as certificate of attendance. It will be sent out in a separate email because it comes out through a certifier app. So it won't be sent from me directly. It'll be sent out through another email. So you'll have 2 emails following up this webinar, one with additional resources and links and another one with the certificate. So just so you know, and sometimes I know people have let me know that the certificate can get lost in their spam or junk folder. So be sure to look in your spam and junk folder for that because you may find it there. So just glancing at the questions, if anyone's got any questions. No, that seems pretty good. So someone's asking, actually, this is the key question. How would you suggest a center begins and what is the most important first step? Well, I mean, that's a huge question, isn't it? Maybe Erica, do you want to talk about some of the things that we offer that you offer on the kipchi website? It's a great place to start to get some resources.
Sure thing. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Robin?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, great. It's a great question. And to some extent, it depends on what type of setting that you're in, right? We recognize there's a whole range of different settings, some that are facilities that are purpose-built and owned, and others it's borrowed space in a basement or whatever. So, I would say, taking a tour of the new online website that we have will give you an idea of where there's the low-hanging fruit. I think it's really important to recognize that a lot of these things are above and beyond your regulatory requirements. These are extra things to take on. So we really encourage a continuous improvement. Do the things that are easy, that you can build some momentum. get some support from your colleagues and from the families and involve the kids often. Some of these measures are actually really fun, you know, like growing more of your own food or composting or engaging in different things like, you know, conserving energy and so forth can be educational and engaging. Given that we're in COVID, if I had to pick one of the boxes to pick, it would be the discussion we're having tonight about indoor air quality, because with that, you're really getting a broad range of potential health benefits, reducing exposure to COVID and other airborne viruses, but also addressing some of the things that are in our indoor air from the products that we use, off-gassing from furnishings, and really there's quite an array of things. So really just thinking about where can we start, you know, even simple things like thinking about cleaning practices, doing it at times, you know, if you have to spray tables, do it when the kids have left the space. Some of these simple adaptations can really reduce those exposures and help create a healthier setting. And I'd welcome Patrick and others' thoughts on that as well. I think it's a great question.
It's Jillian here. Can you hear me okay? My video doesn't seem to be going on, but if you can hear me, thank you for that, nodding heads. Just to add to what Erica just shared is I would definitely recommend visiting our new resource hub and taking the checklist. It's definitely a great starting point as to things that you can do, as Erica mentioned some of the examples, and I think that that's a great starting point. It's a really good question. Thanks.
Yeah, the checklist is a great opportunity to make a start in this area. I mean, I think there's so much information in there, and it's offered in such a way that's very accessible, and it gives people a chance to jump in and figure out where they're at and what they could do to improve. At the same time, it's being very informative and building awareness. So it's a great place to start.
I just did that entirely on mute, didn't I?
I think so. I thought it was me.
Yeah, well, that's all right. That's fine.
That wasn't only me. That's good.
Technology. Yeah, just let them talk. No, I just wanted to say it was really great being able to see the checklist and how it kind of cross-pollinates with the work that we do at Health Canada, how you've pulled some of our resources. We try hard to take the really technical information and make it in a format where people can use it. That's why these presentations are great, because it gives me an opportunity to be able to sort of synthesize things down. But even being able to have your website linked to our KX, sometimes hard to find stuff on the website, having it in a place where it's all in one is great for us, because it just means that it's actually getting to the people that can use it. So I think the checklist is a wonderful place to start.
Thanks for that, Patrick. And maybe can I follow on? Can folks hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just in terms of information getting to people in childcare programs who can make use of it, I do want to share a bit of information, and Patrick addressed part of this in his presentation in terms of some of the measures that people are taking to address the COVID risk. Very well-intentioned measures to try to reduce exposures. There are some of the devices that are being promoted, that you can buy on the internet or whatever, that actually are ill-advised. And Patrick mentioned the ozone generating devices. Health Canada had an alert come out some months ago about those ozone generating devices. My sense, looking at some of the survey responses, is maybe that information isn't fully getting out. The other ones to be aware of are UV generating devices, which need to be registered. They need to be approved by the government agency. And you should really check to make sure that you're using it appropriately, because the UV can be harmful to the eyes. This is not something to be taken lightly. And then the third one, this one wasn't addressed necessarily in that same Health Canada alert, and Patrick, you can weigh in, are any kind of device that's going to be spraying disinfectant chemicals into the air. It may seem like a good idea if you're trying to combat COVID, but it is certainly not something that we recommend. And there's also questions about whether it even helps. So certainly avoid anything that's going to propel disinfecting or sanitizing chemicals into the air, or any chemical for that matter, even some of the arts and crafts materials or sunscreens that are in spray form. We really try to avoid anything that's going to get airborne.
Yes, and I think I don't know if you're ever going to come across a government agency at Health Canada who's going to recommend some sort of a spraying, disinfecting. The thing is the amount of sanitizers, the amount of just the amount of hand washing, the amount of sanitizers that have sort of ended up in the environment in the last 2 years. It's incredible to think the amount of stuff that we've used. So no, I don't. We're never going to advise anything like that. I think that anything that we can do to reduce chemical exposure in the air or dermally or whatever, I think is good.
Yeah, and on that point, in terms of hand washing, a lot of people are turning to the antibacterial hand soaps. It doesn't help, and it's actually ill-advised for a number of reasons, including the impact on the environment. But just regular old soap and water is what everybody recommends. Health Canada, Pediatric Society, kipchi for sure. So just keep it simple.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not the same thing, but it's when people want to clean up mold in their house. People always want to use harsh chemicals, or they want to use bleach because they want to disinfect the wall. That's not what it's. Soap and water is what we recommend. A lot of times, it's the bleach is probably more dangerous than the mold was in the first place. So it's very true. Moving to hot soapy water, vinegar and baking soda. I mean, that's what people should be cleaning their houses with now. So.
That's a great piece of advice. Yeah. So is there anything else? I think that, and children tend to put their fingers in their mouths, which is true. I mean, that's a huge issue. So getting back to soap and water when they don't have their hands covered in sanitizers, that the thought of that also sends me crazy thoughts. But yeah, for sure. Newfoundland, bleach and water. Yes. And you'll find in different parts of Canada, certainly in different jurisdictions, there are some legislated requirements for cleaning. But I think, knowing what we do know, we can look at ways to advocate for that too. We can look at ways that we could change some of those policies. We can work on that too. Oh, there's something about radon tests. Yeah, that's a great idea to do. Yeah. And I think a lot of the information that you're going to be learning through doing the checklist and looking at sites like kipchi and Health Canada's website is information you can actually share with parents as well. So in having those conversations at pickup time, and it's an opportunity to inform families of stuff that they may not know about themselves. So, as much as I know people have commented to me in the past too, saying things, well, I can't do anything about the environment. I work in a childcare center and it's an old building and whatever. You'd be surprised the amount of things you actually can do. You'd be really, really surprised. A lot of these actions are things you do each and every day and you don't even realize it. So I think taking the checklist for people will be quite empowering and will offer you an opportunity to get some really accessible tips and things you can do right away. And like I said, encourage families to be doing them as well, which I think would be great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody for attending this evening. That was great. And I know it's full of information. My head's buzzing, but look forward to sending out that email to everybody and including all the links so you can have some additional information and some time to sit with it and look at it and look through it again at your own leisure too. So if there's anything, please let me know. You have my email will be with the email that I'm sending as a follow-up, and feel free to contact us and let us know what your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the webinar, we'd love to hear about that too. So thanks again to the presenters and to Dawn, Patrick, Erica, and Jillian. And thanks for joining us this evening. And we look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.